So everybody, let's focus on my screen and please ask me whenever you have difficulties how we can just solve a few of the issues. So I'm going to try to follow also my instructions step by step. I need to find them first. So open Rhino and work with fit. As you remember, there are several ways to go ahead and select fit. The long way would be under Tools, Options. A new window should pop up, and then you figure out where the units under this list are located, and you change your model units from inches or whatever else you have to fit. A shorter way would be from down here where my mouse is pointing out right now. You can just right click, unit settings, and come up with the model units. Okay, number 2, we have to type curve with degree number 1. So we aim towards a polyline here with sharp edges. Curve in the parentheses, I have to be very careful that I change the degree from 3, that is usually the default, to number 1. Enter. And I need to create a polyline, a rectangle that has 200 by 150 feet dimension. So I'm going to start from the 0 point, the origin point. Sorry, I had to select a rectangle, I accidentally selected the curve. And 100 or 200, enter by 150, enter. Now, inside this boundary, you guys were asked to basically create a new curve that would be your side, your imaginative side. So you go ahead, you type curve, degree 1, as the instructions say. And why not? Let's go down here and make sure that we are snapping to the near. So we can go ahead and use this boundary as a guideline for our side dimensions and save. Okay, as soon as I create any new object in my scene, I better go ahead and create a new layer for it. So I will go under layer number 1, double click and rename that to the side perimeter. Right click and say change object layer. Next step would be to create a path, whatever, okay, that connects or creates something interesting inside this polygonal shape. So I will type curve, degree number 3, I create a random curve for now, obviously, because I am not doing anything realistic. I will go ahead and I will place this curve in another layer. So I will call that path curve. While I am inside this layer, I will even offset the curve 9 feet. So I create a width for my path. Now, when you are in the offset command, I guess you have used it already, you can go under the distance and change the distance to whatever your dimension want to be. And also you can select the side. So if I snap, I click enter now to this side, this is where my path will be generated. I went to the opposite. Nice. If I wanted to be very meticulous, I will come here and I will trim that line. So we go very back to the basics, the very basic skills we obtained in the very first weeks. So I will type trim, this is my cutting object, enter, this is the object to trim, and now I have a more or less clean path. So far so good? For everybody, Kevin? Yeah? So trim and offset, basic things we have seen in class, okay? Now, let's move next. Our goal is basically to generate out of here a surface that is free form. It has cavities. So I will just type first planar surface in order to end up having a surface out of this planar perimeter line. So planar surface is the command you guys have seen already. Now, I cannot really see the surface, I can only see those isocurves. So I will right click and say shaded, just for me to be aware of what am I designing exactly. Now, I will go under layer number 3, double click. Every time I do something, I will just place it in a new layer. I know that this surface will be deformed very soon, so I will name it something similar to that and change object layer. Since I am now, I have visualized my normals, you guys all remember how I was able to see the back face of a surface? Yeah? So if you go under Tools, Options, View, right now I'm working under the shaded view, so if I go here I can see that my settings for back face is that the program is using a single color for to show me the normals, and this color is red. So already I got a bit suspicious. I understand that I have to flip the normal surface in order to have a more consistent work. So I can either type dir, D-I-R, or I can go here to this symbol, which is Analyze Direction, and instead of having my normals looking down, I will flip them, and now my surface looks correctly. Okay. I have my planar surface. All I need to do is to, of course, start rebuilding the surface in order to get more isocurves and more points of intersections in the isocurves, and later on deform the surface. So rebuild. This window should pop up for everybody. Make sure that you rebuild the surface, not the perimeter curve. So Kevin, that was the problem we had together. You first need to select the object. Nice. So point count, the instructions set 10 by 10, and then degree number 3. Make sure you retrim so you don't end up with a full rectangle. If you retrim, then you will have this polyline basically as the boundary for your new surface. And you may save and delete input so you don't keep the original planar surface. Nice. Already I see a denser isocurve grid. And if I control points on, so if I type points on or F10 is the shortcut, I can now go ahead, select some of my points, and using my gumball, which is Rhino 5, right, otherwise I would have to move vertically, I can go ahead and move upwards or downwards using the blue arrow. Okay, here I should be picky, as Joseph says. In order for my thing to not be random, it should have some constraints, why it goes down, why it goes up, etc., etc. So this should be part of a design process. It cannot just be whatever we're doing now. I want to only move the control point, so I will deselect whatever else it's selected, holding control. And let's say that we are happy with that. F11 to get rid of the points. And now next step is, of course, to move this a little bit upwards so it's not underground, right? You want this surface to touch the ground. Okay, let's move next in the instructions. It seems to me that I'm good with the very first family, so I have to jump under the Create 2D Paneling Grid option. Are you guys all okay till now? Did I forget anything here? I think I missed something. I didn't read my instructions very well. Right, yeah, so I cannot start the paneling grid because I don't have an attractor, and I need to work with variable paneling grid. So I will project. Previous class we saw another command. Instead of projecting a line, we saw something else. Who remembers? How else can I create a curve that goes right away on top of this irregular surface? Again, please? You really like that. I remember previous class you gave the exact same answer, and we said that it's taking too long. Probably it's not the best command to use right now. Again? Interpolate curve, yeah. So you can either type interpolate curve, or let's visualize it. If you go under the curve options and you hold your mouse, you you can see in my screen there is the third button here that says interpolate curve. With this command you can basically draw whatever you want on top of any regular surface. So okay, I need to first select my surface and then I can start drawing any curve I want, and I know that this curve belongs to the surface. Of course I shouldn't snap to anything else down here. This is the surface I just created, and as you can all see in my screen, it belongs on the irregular deformed surface. Okay. The instructions though said something differently. We work with the project command. I saw a few of you guys, you had that option. So you created a path that instead of being part of your plan, it was outside. And then you were trying to project this line on top of this surface. Who can explain a bit why this cannot happen? Why I cannot project this line on top of this surface? Right, of course. You always need to go under the top view and make sure that the shapes are one on top of the other, or partially one on top of the other. Otherwise, there is nothing to be projected on. So I will delete the line. I will go back. I will type project. And I will only select one of the curves. So just this one. Enter. And then I will select my surface. Enter. And here I get my attractor curve. Right away I will go here, click in the new layer, write down attractor, right click and change object layer. Okay, next step, paneling grid. So this step is what you guys have been doing the last 1 week, right? The couple last weeks with the paneling tools. So the first step in order to panelize any component, any surface, is to create a grid. So we'll go under the paneling tools, create paneling grid, and variable, it seems to be the most sophisticated grid creation option. Okay, now I have to start reading carefully the parentheses and of course the instructions. So according to the instructions I want to create a grid 10 by 10. Why is that? Why I wanted 10 by 10? Any ideas? Intuition? Right, so Alice says, since you rebuilt this surface into 10 by 10 and you have already visualized a little bit how the scale of each of those smaller isocurves works, and it seems to you healthy in terms of distance in feet, why don't you stick with the same numbers? So you know already that the new grid will be created following these isocurves, more or less. So, okay, distance method, not point attractors. I'm working with a curve, so I have to click here and select my curve attractor. Magnitude, instead of towards, we are trying this time away. So previous class we talked about paneling tools. We're always working with attraction. Today we will move away. So magnitude 2. And now I am ready, I think, to select my surface, select my attractor curve, enter, and I have a new grid that is generated. If I remember correctly, I have to move that grid upwards or copy that grid upwards. So I can just type copy and say vertically. That's how would you do it in Rhino 4. So let's change from gumball to the command line. You guys have to be familiar with both of those ways. So vertically means it's going to copy in the z-axis, either positively or negatively. So I have to say yes here, and this is the point I want to copy from, and I want this to go to the 9 feet upwards. Already I have those two grids generated. One and then a second one. Okay, obviously what's the next step? Again, Michelle? Layers, yeah. So we're talking about lots of points here that I don't want to mess up. So I will select this grid, I will go under layer number 5, And this is my grid number 2. I will create a new layer and name it grid number 1. Okay, so under grid number 2, change object layer, and under grid number 1, change object layer. Nice. So the next step, it seems, what we are trying to do in the next step is to basically get rid of these extra points that they are not really describing our surface. So paneling tools, they go ahead and work with the overall surface that generated this trimmed surface. That's why they end up giving you points of a full rectangle. You don't want that resolution, so you will need to go ahead manually and delete them for now. So I will select them. Right now they're all grouped, so I will have to ungroup them. I'm typing ungroup, and now I can go ahead and select them one by one. Better if I go in a planar view and start deleting points that I feel they won't do good job and they won't respect my area perimeter. Okay, we're doing that fast. Good thing that I have organized my work in layers, because if I want to select now all of the white points, I can right click and say select objects, and they're all here, and why not, I will group them again so it's easier for them to touch them. I will do the same here, select objects and group. It seems that I have a clean file. Okay, we're done with the paneling tools portion, but instead of moving on and just creating a paneling from this grid, so we could have gone ahead and say paneling tools, paneling from grid, and play with other 2D or 3D components. This time we're basically implementing a new command. It's called mesh paths. It has the ability to recognize as many points as you want. These points don't have to be paneling grid points. They can be any points, random points. Maybe you digitize some stuff in points in the lab and you ended up with a bunch of them and you want to create a surface out of them, then the mesh paths could be a good command for you to work with. So mesh paths, I need to select curves and points. Now it's all about the instructions. So the instruction says, okay, let's respect this as a height. So I will of course go ahead, select both of my layers and all of the objects that they are in the layer. So right click and select objects as soon as you have highlighted the layers. Then the instruction said, okay, select also your path. So whatever triangulation happens between the points will respect this path and leave it clean. And also select the perimeter of your side, so you start enclosing the side with triangulated facets. Enter. Now let's all just type enter here and accept the result, and this is what I get. I will turn off now my deformed surface. I don't need it anymore. Why not even my paneling grids? Oops, this was a bad layer management, so I will need to take that, create a new layer and call it folding or final. And now I can just get rid of any other element. So I get a composition that, of course, right now I agree with Joseph, it looks random. I want you to have this composition in mind because you end up basically out of points that could be very interesting constraints for you. So points that could signify for you the city stops, right? The city bike stops, and lines that again connect these stops somehow. You can create a new surface that tries to combine all of this information. Again, it's a superficial touch, right? But we need to start from somewhere and then analyze how the somewhere can become a concept. Okay. So, okay, next step would be to, of course, take this mesh and make it NURBS. Why would that step be important? Who has an idea? Genaro, can you talk louder? I don't think we can hear you. Right, so Rhino works with both meshes and NURBS. But Genaro very well says that Rhino is better with NURBS for now. So if you want to do Boolean operations, you can do it with both of the different geometries. but Rhino will perform better if the geometry is NURB system. Also, if you want to make 2D, you have to do that only to NURBS system geometries. Since our goal is to start visualizing that with diagrams, plans, make 2D command, then we better translate that to NURBS. The command to do so is mesh to NURBS. Now a new geometry is being generated right away, and you can already see that the new geometry that is a polysurface, an assembly of smaller surfaces, has the isocures. So it's very familiar to us. I will get rid of the mesh. If I cannot select the mesh, this happens many times. Either I zoom in a lot and I'm able to now select and delete it, or if I cannot at all, as we said previous time, there is this edit select objects menu where you can select any geometry in your scene. So if I look for mesh, doesn't exist? No, so I can go ahead and select polysurfaces, place that in a different layer, and now either invert the selection or go to the previous layer and now delete the mesh. So the edit select objects menu can give you specific geometries as a selection. It seems that mesh is not here unless I don't see it. Nice. Next step was step 13, 12, where you would come here and start loving a little bit more your geometry. How would you do that? You would suppose that underneath here, of course, you have height for a person to start moving in this space. So this person has to also see the light, the sun. So why not? Let's explode that and start deleting some faces or even trimming faces. Okay, this is again now a matter of you treating that as a project rather than a small workshop. Now, who managed to go to step 13? Who worked with step 13? Yeah? 1, 2, 3. So, okay, maybe you guys can help me out here. Step 13 was the idea of us analyzing this folding system into structure versus skin. And structure means how does this thing really stands up here. It could be that the folding its own is a structural system. It could be though that we have some extra elements, some pipes, I don't know, a metal structure that holds these panels. Okay, very fast now I'm just introducing one extra command, the pipe command, just in case you want to visualize lines. So for your diagrams over there, if you have a line element that connects specific points of the city, maybe the pipe command is a good command for you to visualize this line with thickness. So let's do that all together now. So for those that didn't manage to go to this step of the piping, try to follow me. We still have 10 minutes to go slow and do it all together. Till that point, do we have questions? Was that easy? Yes or no? No. Okay. Michelle says no. Joseph says yes. Okay. So let's move on to the pipe. I will just read, right? I don't know stuff. I'm just reading very well the instructions. So organize the structure versus the skin. To do so, you will need to pipe the border lines of each surface. So what do? You type dub borders. So that's the first thing. I will need to type this command. Duplicate face borders. I will go ahead, select all of my geometry. These are my objects. And I will go ahead and say other duplicate borders, or let's visualize it. This is what I'm trying to do, to get just the border of a surface. You guys all remember these commands, right? How do you extract lines out of surfaces? So that's the command, and it will give me all of the perimeter lines for each of those triangles. I could use these lines as structure. Now, before I even lose the selection, I will go ahead, create a new layer. Of course, I will call the layer structure curves. Oops. And change object layer. And I will keep moving. Now, I did that. Let's go ahead. It says here explode. Nice. Let's type explode. What I'm doing now, and I will read carefully up here, is that I'm exploding the triangles, this polyline of a triangle, into 3 different segments. So if I turn off my structure, I only have these curves. Now you can see these elements as single elements. Before explosion, this was a single polyline that was basically describing the triangle. Everybody okay? Yeah. So let's move to the next step. Select duplicates. So already, in order for me to understand what happened with this explode, I went here and I started touching objects, and I realized that I have many lines that they overlay. I don't want all of this geometry because my file will become very heavy, so it's meaningless for me to have line on top of the line on top of the line. So I will go ahead and type the select duplicate command. So let's zoom out, cell dup. And here Rhino selects all of the lines that they are repeated. And I will go ahead and delete right away. And if I start to select, if I zoom in and select again, I realize that I only have now one curve. So select duplicates is the command for you guys to start deleting information that is repeated in your scene. Okay, not this one, this one. Okay, I'm done with that. I deleted already, so I need now to type pipe, and I will follow the instructions. I want a pipe with round corners. Why? Because I want to create structure out of lines. I will type the command, and this is where I have to, of course, start understanding what do I pipe really. Let's go ahead and select first the objects. So structure lines, select all of the objects that belong in here. You get all of your lines, and now type pipe. Here in the parentheses you have cap, round, and fit rail, yes. Those are 2 options I recommend. You would be able to pipe anyways, but most of the times the piping in the intersection wouldn't be as good in terms of resolution. So in the parentheses, it's up to you to experiment. I recommend round, and fit rail, yes. Pipe radius, of course. I don't want a pipe that is 1 feet. That's probably huge. So let's type half. It's again very big. If you had a real project, you will have to think about it. And this is what I get. Also, this is the point in which I could start getting problems in terms of how heavy my file is, right? So you may want to go back now if you see that the program is struggling, and redefine how many of these lines do you want to pipe. Do you want all of this structure? Is the structure redundant? Can you get rid of some elements like these ones and only leave triangulation? It's up to you now as designers to understand how this works. You guys like that? Yeah? Are you following? Yes, more or less? So for those that they don't follow, I want you to just do that on home again and again. It's just reading. As you realize, I try to just have you there read and perform. Okay, now I lost my selection, so I need to go back and select all of these elements and place them in a separate layer, obviously. So I will go ahead and type the cell last command, which will select all of the geometries generated from the latest command I typed. Create a new layer and call that geometry or pipe right away. Change object layer. And here I have my structure too. and this is how the overall looks like. Now you guys can just start being very smart when it comes to visualization, and if you wanted to explain this project to somebody, why not you would consider to create an exploded analysis that would show the perimeter line, then it will show the path. Why not? In another layer you would have just the skin, in another layer you would have just the structure. So everybody understands all of the elements that were the drivers of your design. So I'm gonna just leave it here. The next steps of the workshop is V-Ray render. I here don't really introduce anything new. I was planning to just repeat things for those that they don't remember a few stuff. If you have questions on the V-Ray render, I would like you to just ask them now. If you need to prepare for the midterm. Do you guys feel okay with the basics? Okay, very fast I will go through one thing. This is your render menu. This is the material editor and the options. First thing you guys are doing always is you go under the options, output, and as we said previous class, you want to work with a big output. For now, I want to keep it small because I'm in a hurry, right? At home or when you are rendering for printing purposes, you will go up to 2000 for sure, where my mouse is pointing out right now. So that's the first thing you want to start checking, output. Right after, material editor. Right now your scene has no materials. We saw how we can create new materials, right? So you can right click, create material, standard material, and let's rename that to skin. And the two main things we have seen is basically how do you adjust color. So let's say that the skin was red, it was fabric, and then transparency. So let's add a little bit of transparency. The black means no transparency, and white means that I won't be able to see the skin anymore. It's going to be transparent. So any value between white and black, which means the level, we determine the level of transparency. Now another thing we learn is how to add reflectivity layer. So I can right click, create layer, and say add a little bit of reflection too. This new menu will pop up. For now we don't do anything here. After midterm we will go more in depth into V-Ray Rhino rendering. Okay, since I have my material, I need to assign this material to my geometry. So I will go back to my layers, select my skin, and if I go the material and right click, I have to say apply the material to the selection. Now I know that those two are linked. A new thing that I am mentioning to you right now is instead of just creating a new material, you can load the material. So Rhino has a very big library of materials. So if you are looking for a sophisticated metal for your structure, why not? Let's not lose our time. Let's use the software defaults. So load material will bring you to a new window that connects to your browser exactly where Rhino is installed. So this is the path, and in here you will see a series of a collection of materials that Rhino has ready for you guys. So glass, plastic, porcelain, we're looking for metal, no? So we'll go here and say I want this to be gold. Gold, yeah, for whatever reason. And I have a new material that is gold. And I will of course need to connect now my scene with the material, so I will go back, select all of my pipes, select objects, right click and apply material to selection. Two more things we have said when it comes to rendering. As soon as you are done with the materials and the output, you want a light and also you want a big base to act as your ground. The big base is going to be generated through the command plane. So all you need to do is to draw a huge plane. So this composition will cast some shadows down here. Now, because we're running late, I'm not going to work more here. You guys know that you can add also light. and also another material for the base. Very fast I'm gonna try to just render the pipe, so we'll turn off that and hit the render button just for us to see how this gold looks. Obviously it looks very bad because we wouldn't see a gold structure out there, but I want you to see the possibilities of ready-made materials from Rhino. We haven't set up a camera, right?